on our early arrival program, Scholars Academy. So MTSU has two early arrival programs. We have Scholars Academy that was created in 2005, and then spun off of Scholars Academy in 2019 was created the STAR program. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But to kind of dive into Scholars Academy, one major component of the Scholars Academy is our 2-week Freshman Summer Institute. And that is what kicks off Scholars Academy. We bring in students. At this time, we accept 200 students for that program. Those students are first-generation students, underrepresented or minority students, students that may be Pell eligible, students that just really want a head start and want to get immersed in the college and experience early. Attend those programs. And so there's several benefits to the program. We'll start with just talking about the academic benefits, and then we can dig into a little bit more of the other benefits that kind of just roll from that Freshman Summer Institute. So Ryan or Travis, whoever wants to start talking about those academic benefits of the Freshman Summer Institute.
Yeah, I would share. So we know that the Scholars Academy specific population, so students who are underrepresented or first generation students or students who are Pell eligible are typically those students who will benefit from some academic exposure, college exposure early on. And so we really work with them in the 2 weeks in the Freshman Summer Institute to expose them and get used to what it's like academically on college. So reading's different on a college level. The way you write is different. The way you analyze the material is different. And I think that the biggest piece in this is that we know that these students would benefit from that additional academic support. And so we're working with them directly on how to take advantage of their resources in terms of the supplemental instruction, the tutoring, how to engage the material in such a way that you can understand what the instructor is saying, but you know also connect the dots with your own self-directed learning. So exposing them to these courses within the 2 weeks in the Freshman Summer Institute is crucial in giving them that exposure that they'll need and setting them up for success that will transition into the semester itself.
Great.
Yeah, we would focus on maybe this year is unique in some ways, right? We're in this little pandemic situation.
Right.
Students have been out of school for longer, right? By the time they get to college in the fall. And so one of the big benefits always is the fact that students are changing their mindset and starting in a low stakes environment to where they're doing college level work. And by low stakes, I mean, we're not grading tons of stuff, right? It's about process. It's about getting comfortable. It's about starting to think about math again. Like, I don't know that maybe it's the case that there's a lot of students who are not thinking about math for like 5 months, and then they're going to have to take a math class in college. A lot of students probably also are not reading academic material. And then come August, right, you're going to have to jump into the academic reading. And so in a lot of ways, it's an opportunity to jumpstart your thinking, to do some academic work in a supportive environment. We have small classes in Scholars Academy. Students are going to be going to a bunch of classes, but they're walking around and transitioning between classes with 20 or so students. So that means that there's greater access to the faculty member, and there's also support from peer mentors and other students. And so as you kind of, almost struggle to get back into the swing of things, you're doing it in a place where taking a while to get back into the swing of things kind of doesn't matter. We've built it so that you can kind of come up to speed with everybody else, but you've also got tons of support around you. So you can say, like, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. And faculty and peer mentors and the other students will help you. Those are to me, that's the big academic benefits of coming 2 weeks early. It just gets you to think like you're going to have to once college begins. So then once the class starts, right, you're already running. Like, you've hit the ground, you know what's happening. There's no lag. You're just good. You're ready to go.
Yeah. Just thinking about this whole process of transitioning in the Freshman Summer Institute, man, 20 years ago is when I set foot on college campus for me. I was a first generation student. And for some who don't know what that means, neither my mother or father graduated from a 2 or 4 year institute. Now, my dad did attend a 2 year, and he expected that all of his students have to at least go to a 2 year. Ryan, you talked about math preparedness. I didn't take a math class my whole senior year. Because why would I take pre-cal when I could just take a class called Consumer Hospitality and Tourism, and I took field trips. So I decided to forgo a pre-calculus class, which put me in a developmental course for math my first year. And so it was a whole refresher, a whole thinking about this process again, without really even thinking about it for, months on end. To go into a place of not knowing anyone, me having kind of social anxieties, I had an opportunity because I was an athlete that I had a built-in support system. So I had coaches, I had advisors, I had teammates. We were in classes with other athletes. People had already created a schedule for me. So there were pieces that I didn't have to go through. And so with the Freshman Summer Institute, I think we get to create something very similar that athletes get, and that's been proving along the way that it's been successful for these students to help them in a setting of transition and also in academic preparedness earlier. One thing that I do notice, and it's a challenge, and I just wanted to bring this up and talk about it because you mentioned it, Ryan, is that it is low risk. So how do we keep students motivated to continue to push through this Freshman Summer Institute of 2 weeks where they are required to get up in the morning for breakfast and then extend throughout the day for activities in the evening? What would you say to our students who say, it is low risk, it's not getting graded? Why would it be beneficial for them to take it seriously to help them as they transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would answer it in two ways at the same time. So the first part of my answer relates to University 1010. So University 1010, you start taking class in University 1010 in the Summer Institute. So you're spending 2 weeks with your class, and then you spend the rest of the semester with that same class. So it's a kind of early start to a class you're taking in the fall. And the way that what we try to do with the grading in University 1010 is we're going to spend those 2 weeks in a low stakes environment. We're going to be asking you to think really strategically about what you need to do to be successful in the fall. Well, then you're going to present all of that information in the very first week of the semester, maybe the second week, depending on how the individual instructor structures it. Well, that work is going to be graded, right? So it's low stakes. You're getting a lot of feedback. You're not graded when you're talking about your strategy for taking notes in your classes or whatever, right? But you are graded when you present it in the fall semester. So there is a tie-in to more of an external motivation from those grades. The second thing is we spend a lot of time thinking about the way that kind of your time in college connects with your larger goals that you have for yourself. And so this isn't about, it is about doing better in classes, right? But it's not only about doing better in your classes. It is about staying in school longer. It's not only about staying in school longer. It's about those things as a means to the end that you see for yourself, right? So you want to be a doctor, or you want to be a lawyer, or you want to start your own business, or you want to get a job in marketing, right? We're going to help you connect the dots between the stuff that we're learning in this Freshman Summer Institute and this goal that's 4 years away and seems super distant, because that's what matters. And our job, and we feel really strongly about this, and I can speak for, I mean, we talk about this all the time, so I'm sure you all do too, but our job is to help you get there. We can't do it for you, right? But we can help you think about it. We've been around doing this college thing for a while, and that's what we do. So when it feels like it's not valuable, we're going to zoom out with you and we're going to have a conversation about, like, yeah, it does matter now because of the way that it connects with this goal that you have for yourself later on.
Yeah, yeah. Great. And I mean, Travis, I know that you've had conversation with students and you're always pushing for students to try to be able to see how the future connects where they are today. So what kind of conversation, how would that conversation go for a student that comes into your office that says, I'm not really sure how what I'm doing today is going to help me later?
Yeah. So first, I'm all ears, right? I'm allowing them to come in and share their concerns or their ambiguities about their careers, which is completely normal, right? It is absolutely normal to come to college and not know what you want to do as far as career is concerned. But once they detailed, where they are in this process, I help them chart their passion. I see and through my own experience and my colleagues and really anyone, what you do for a career is closely tied in with your passion. So I'm helping students chart their passion, which carves out their deep interests. And so I help connect them to a program offering at MTSU in which they can see themselves being successful. And based off that passion, based off that deep interest and the course offerings within that program, that light bulb switches and they're quickly attuned and curious as they navigate through these courses. So, I mean, I typically just walk through them with that conversation like that. But it's really about their passion and really helping them chart their passion, discover what their deep interests are, and connecting it with a program that we offer, and really helping them see how their interests can be something that they'll do for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, yeah. And so oftentimes these conversations can happen as early as a customs orientation that you might meet a student, or they may happen in that freshman summer institute, or even those conversations happen after the semester starts. Sometimes freshman semester, also it could even happen in the sophomore semester. But that's one of the major benefits of students doing our Freshman Summer Institute is Mr. Travis and I and the instructors of University 1010 get to build these relationships with these students. And it's on a much more informal level, not a professional level. Travis will often walk up to students and say, hey, where are you from? What's your interest? And it gets to know things about them, what their pet's name or what their mother's career is, and being able to tie that back into a conversation later. And so students that do our Freshman Summer Institute, when school starts on that first day, have the opportunity to walk around and see other people they know, but also they see administrators and professors that they know too. And I think that's one of the big benefits of our Freshman Summer Institute. When I started in 2018, being able to see that transition from the Freshman Summer Institute to the first day of class and how great it was, and to be able to walk on campus and see our students who were knowledgeable of the buildings and also just a part of the campus and the culture, already immersed into it before they even attended the first week of classes. Is great. So I'd like to just wrap up this kind of segment with you telling us, kind of what you think the benefits are for that Freshman Summer Institute, that 2-week program that we've put together. What do you really see as the strong, impactful drives to help our students, and in your point of views, being an administrator and then an instructor? Ryan?
Okay, so I think the big part of I think there are a couple of big advantages. One of them is it connects you with a really important support network. MTSU is a large school. We have enrollment over 20,000 students. The campus is big. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and lost. Mm-hmm. But if you come to Scholars Academy, you're in a group of 20. You're in a group that's supported real well administratively by the institution. And so you have a special connection to support. We're not saying that students who don't come to Scholars Academy don't have support, but the students who come to Scholars Academy know how to find it a whole lot easier than students who are coming just for the regular part of the semester. So that's one big benefit. The other big benefit is that you've had the experience, you've built a strategy, you know how you want to approach class when it starts on the first day, and so you're ready to roll. And that sounds maybe insignificant, but we know from all of our research and a lot of our research that students are often unprepared for how different college is than high school, and they use ineffective strategies to try to pass their classes. And so taking a minute to zoom out and to think about just what am I doing this fall, that is really beneficial and advantageous for the students.
Yeah. Travis?
I would add that the exposure that Scholars Academy provides, right? And it's exposure to a lot. It allows students to get a little bit of taste of this, a little bit of taste of that, all in which is encompassing of a successful semester, first semester and beyond. So students are exposed early on to the housing element, right? Where you're meeting the residence assistant, you're learning how to navigate and use the housing facilities. So that exposure to that, you have, like Ryan mentioned earlier, you have access to instructors. So you're building relationships with faculty members. You have the exposure and connectedness with other constituents around the university who offer different resources. So you can connect and remember a person for what their offer or what the resources look like as far as like the tutoring center. So you know who runs the tutoring center, you know who works in the health center, you know who's over the writing center. So you have that exposure. In addition to that, you have exposure to students who were in your shoes previously through the peer mentorship. So you have all of these different types of exposure to different resources, different components of the university that you can compile or that students can compile in order to use these things for success down the line. So I think that's the biggest benefit, is the exposure to all the resources, to all the elements at MTSU, the acclimation period, the exposure to the buildings, knowing what buildings are what. It's a really huge benefit, the exposure piece.
Great. Well, thank you.
Can I add one thing? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm doing some research with a colleague on learning and the process of learning recently, and some of the stuff that Travis just said made me think about this point that we kind of arrived at the other day, which is learning compounds and success compounds. So we've heard that adage, the rich get richer, yeah, right? And that applies here. The people who figure out how to learn, who figure out where they fit on campus, who figure out how to find the support, right? They're going to learn more during their college experience than the people who don't. And that learning is super beneficial once you get out of school. And so it's a kickstart in every way, and it's extremely important.
Yeah. Wow, that was great. Learning compounds, I love that. And I think it's so impactful as we think about our programs. One thing that I say about our programs are they're holistic programs. We're looking at the student, as a person, as a family member. We're looking at them overall and not just focusing on one dynamic. And I think that's huge when we talk about learning compounding. It's not that they're just learning in an academic setting. They're gaining all of these resources throughout this program in so many different ways, as Travis said, from peer mentors to RAs to even simple things like how our dining halls operate and how to function through them, to our recreation center. So all those things to help them. So again, guys, thank you for sharing about the Freshman Summer Institute, this great 2-week early arrival program of Scholars Academy that Freshman Summer Institute is a major component in. So we're going to wrap up right now with that, and then we will come back later and talk more in depth about our early arrival programs.